I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York.
How we doing, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I am your host, Richie, riding solo today, and today is the second installment of the 2025 Subway Series between the New York Mets and my beloved New York Yankees. A very important series for both clubs, as both teams currently sit in wild card position in their respective divisions and leagues. New York Yankees a game behind the Toronto Blue Jays currently, who just kicked their ass north of the border. 4-game sweep for the Blue Jays. This is the best baseball the Blue Jays have played since 2015. And this is the most dominant baseball and convincing baseball the Blue Jays have played since their back-to-back seasons of winning world championships prior to the MLB strike in 1992 as well as 1993. As the Yankees go, first time since April that they do not have a share or sole position of first place. Some bad news for the Bombers yesterday as Clark Schmidt left the game with forearm discomfort. And it seems like Marcus Stroman, who's coming off a good appearance against the Athletics most recently, just has 9 lives. It seems like every time the Yankees are in a position to potentially consider trading Stroman, because with his innings situation in his contract, which he's not going to reach, he would be more appealing for other clubs in the event that he could get traded. More clubs would be likely to approach the Yankees or be willing to listen. But this is his former club, the Mets. He's pitching today for the Bombers. I actually took a look at Hard Rock today just to kind of put in a little bit of a parlay, see if I could put something together. But truthfully, the Yankee lineups have not been released yet on Hard Rock. Not surprised. I'll be honest. I like the Mets today. I don't feel great about Stroman. We shall see if he has 2 good starts today, but I'm not big on Stroman today. As the Mets go, after a terrible, terrible stretch of losing 14 of 17 games, they did put together 2 consecutive wins against the first place Brewers team and are currently looking to continue their winning ways and try to get back into first place in their own division. They themselves were in first place for a good while before running into their own share of troubles. I'm going to talk about why each of these teams have run into trouble. I'll start with the Mets, I'll finish with the Yankees, and then I'll give a bigger outlook about the second half of the year and what I think each of these teams need. In the Mets case, I've said it on previous shows. Good pitching. In fact, the best in Major League Baseball in terms of below the 3 mark in earned run average. But an issue for the New York Mets during this time is that their starters were not able to go deep into games, which ultimately was burning out the bullpen. Superstar acquisition, the largest contract in MLB history, Juan Soto, after a very lackluster first part of the season, has been stepping it up. His numbers over the course of the past 3 to 4 weeks have been very, very good. Francisco Lindor hitting in the leadoff spot gradually will be where he usually is. I personally think the Mets need another bat to add to this lineup. Friend of the show, Richard Dorney, and I talk often off air. And I do believe that Cedric Mullins, the outfielder of the Baltimore Orioles, who are out of the race in the AL East, would suffice many a need for that Met lineup. He potentially could be a guy that they bring in. I also think the Mets need another arm. I would say a surprise this particular year for the Mets has been Clay Holmes. The former embattled Yankees closer has made the conversion to starting. He features a sinker. That particular guy, I did not think would convert well to starting. He's doing an adequate job. Jeff McNeil has had some moments. Beatty has had some moments. But I personally think that this team is going to go as far as their three big horses take them. And those three men are Pete Alonso, Juan Soto, and of course, the future Met captain in my eyes, Francisco Lindor. One of the more important Subway Series, I would have to say, in recent memory, as both these teams have World Series aspirations. And, the New York Mets, they're at the table now. They're a legitimate contender. They're a team that is vying for the World Series just as much as the Yankees are. Last year, the New York Mets lost the National League Championship Series to the Los Angeles Dodgers 4-2. Yankees ultimately lost the World Series 4-1. Baseball is back in Queens. After Uncle Stevie bought the franchise from the Wilpons, he has brought credibility back. But I expect both of these clubs to be busy at the trade deadline. And while I shared my thoughts on yesterday's show that if the Yankees slide continues, that manager Aaron Boone should be under the gun, should be on the hot seat. The Steinbrenner family has been very, very patient with Aaron Boone. So we'll see if he can survive. Potential options to replace him. You can go to third base, replace him with Luis Rojas, make him a manager again. Oddly enough, he is a former Met manager. You can potentially go to a former Met and Yankee manager who is currently not coaching. Maybe bring in Buck Showalter. I'm not sure if the Yankees will replace Aaron Boone, but what I do know is that something has to change. And as the Yankees go, they go as far as their captain, Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is currently hitting in the 360s. He did have 2 home runs recently against the Athletics. He hit a moonshot to tie a game and ultimately a game where the Yankees were down 7-0, but still managed to lose. But the thing that's gone down with the Yankees in this Toronto series is that although the pitching has been good all season, the pitching has been falling apart lately. There's a lot of reasons why. It's injuries right now are hurting the Yanks. Still waiting on Louis Heel to return. And now Clark Schmidt hitting the shelf. So I think it goes without saying that the New York Yankees are going to be in the market to pick up another pitcher. Sandy Alcantara was a guy that was definitely on the Yankees' radar, but he is not having a good season with the Miami Marlins. Do the Yankees approach their forever rival, the Houston Astros? I don't necessarily think they go there for help, but I do believe the Yankees will be in the market and they will be attempting. The guy that is definitely at the top of my list is Freddie Peralta. Now, granted, the Brewers are in first place, but can the Brewers afford to keep that man long term? And that's why the Yankees could potentially make the move with the Brewers and bring in Peralta. It will require some of the better Yankee prospects. Do the Yankees want to bring in a third baseman? That has been a point of contention amongst the Yankee fan base. Jazz Chisholm is not a natural third baseman. Oswaldo Cabrera lost for the season. That's been an issue as well. But as to why the Yankees are struggling, I think there's a variety of reasons. I personally think that when chemistry's good and when someone who is a fixture in the lineup comes back in, and in this case, for the first time this season, that would be Giancarlo Stanton, chemistry does take a hit. Stanton hasn't been hitting poorly, but it does take a hit. And, the Yankees do have a balancing act to figure out how to make sure that Ben Rice continues to get the right amount of at-bats while also having the clog in the lineup that is Giancarlo Stanton, because outside of being a DH, granted he has had his heroic October moments, Giancarlo Stanton doesn't bring much to the table outside of being a DH. And that would be a contract that I would be in favor of moving. Now, of course, Stanton has a no trade clause, and I would figure if the Yankees were ever able to find a trade partner for him, it would be somebody on the West Coast, whether it was the Padres, a park that he hits phenomenally in, or maybe the Dodgers. I don't think the Dodgers will be in the market because they have everything they need already. I think Stanton is going to be a Yankee. It's that simple. But Yankees definitely need an arm, and the Yankees definitely need a third baseman. I have alluded to my desire for the Yankees to make a move, potentially bringing in a guy like a Ryan McMahon. I think he makes too much sense, and we shall see. But the Yankees need to shore up the hot corner. I would like to have Jazz Chisholm back at second. And another thing that I wanted to address with the New York Yankees, former Yankee Gleyber Torres, congrats to him making the All-Star team as he is having a very good year for the Detroit Tigers, who are definitely the favorite right now to come out of the American League and make it to the World Series. Yankees were very, I wouldn't say impatient, but no nonsense with Torres. But it seems like they're taking a different approach with 24-year-old shortstop, who in my opinion has been underachieving in a big way, Anthony Volpe. So I do believe that there's some hypocrisy going on in the Yankee organization with regard to that. As this series goes, no lack of intensity, as Juan Soto, who was a huge cog in the Yankees winning their 41st overall pennant last year, took the big money to go over to Queens. Yankees used that money to pick up 7 different players. Some of them, first baseman veteran, former league MVP Paul Goldschmidt, closer Devin Williams, outfielder Cody Bellinger, to name a few. The Yankees ultimately got 7 players with the money that they were intending on using for Juan Soto. The intensity is live. These teams played earlier in the year, Yankees winning 2 out of 3 in a very intense series. The bleacher creatures in the Bronx turning their back to Juan Soto. So there's been a lot of intensity with regard to these two teams. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Baseball is a better place when the New York Yankees and the New York Mets are both relevant at the same time. Of course, 25 years ago, these two teams met in the Subway Series. Oddly enough, in a year where the Mets were the National League wild card and the New York Yankees were the American League East champions. Mets had a better record, but the Yankees ultimately won the series 4-1. The scores of the games were a lot closer than the 4-1 series victory would suggest. That culminated the peak of the Yankee dynasty, 96 through 2000. They three-peated, ultimately winning 4 of 5 before the dynasty ultimately tailed off. The next season, the Yankees were ever so close to four-peating, losing to the Arizona Diamondbacks, whereas the Mets gradually disbanded. But this is the best the Mets have been since that time, similar to the New York Knicks. The Knicks and the Mets have had similar trajectories. But I do like the Mets to win the game tonight, being completely unbiased, because, of course, I want the Yankees to get back on track. But I just don't have a lot of faith in Marcus Stroman right now. So prove me wrong, Yankees. Get this W in Queens tonight. My prediction for the series, though, I like the Yankees to win 2 out of 3. So we'll see how that plays out. Of course, for bragging rights, should the Mets win 2 out of 3, it's still a 3-3 split. But that's not really about the Subway Series I'm worried about. It's about the Yankees getting their asses back into the American League East race and ultimately just playing better baseball, because this has been just tough to watch. And the Yankees have not lost this many games in such a short amount of time since the dreaded 1990 season. So the Yankees right now are just not in a good place. And this is all the more reason why I believe exploring the option of moving on from Aaron Boone should be a real consideration, a real conversation. But after looking ever so mighty for the first part of the season, going into the break, both these teams are limping, and both these teams are going to need to upgrade the rosters if they each intend on making the Fall Classic. But a lot of baseball left, and no teams can go this far into the season and expect to not have a couple of hiccups. It is a very grueling season. But as they say, the boys of summer become the men of fall. And hopefully for New York sports fans, we will get that second Subway Series in the Fall Classic. It's been something that New York sports fans have been craving for a long time. And, nothing better than America's birthday to see these two teams go at it. Always just a spectacular setting. And I was privileged to be in the building at Citi Field for the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Enjoy baseball today. Unfortunately, I will be missing this game, but I'm happy that my little man will be able to experience this today. Get at me in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know what each of these teams need. And in addition to letting me know what the second half of baseball is going to be looking like with the trade deadline as well as the All-Star break steady approaching. Have a great day, everyone, and be safe.